G'day folks, how you going? Welcome to this episode of Escaping Reality. I see after last week we picked up a new subscriber, so if that was you, thanks very much. Speaking of subscribing, if you haven't already, down the bottom down here, hit the subscribe button and there's a little bell next to it. If you click on that, that'll send you a notification to let you know I've uploaded something new. You do need to be registered, but that's only a matter of your name and your email, so it knows where to send the notification to. Anyway, in this week's episode, we're in Kununurra. We're going to head out to Questro and have a look around up there and go for a bit of a swim at the Zebedee Springs before we finish up in Wyndam. Anyway, let's get going, so let's hit the road.
Take me where your river flows. I wanna drive on your open road like the wilderness where we are born singing, whoa. There's an ocean in your eyes.
Well, morning folks. Another brilliant day in the top end of WA. Little cool last night again. Really am amazed how cold it gets here at night time. It was, yeah, quite cool. But as soon as the sun comes up, it heats up straight away. I mean, 25 outside and it's, what time is it now? Just gone 9 o'clock. We're probably looking for about 32 or something today, I think. We just crossed the Deviation Dam again. We're heading out to Questro, which is a wilderness sort of park. About an hour or so north of Kununurra, between Kununurra and Wyndam. The name Questro came from, well, actually nobody really knows where the name came from, because when they decided they were going to build this park out here, I can't remember the name of the fellas that were going to do it. The story goes that they came up with this really, really good name. But they went into Wyndam to register the name, to do the paperwork on it, I think at the post office. And the two fellas, they got in there and they were too late getting in for the office. It had closed, so they had to spend the night there. So they went to the pub and had a few too many drinks. Then they went to the office the next day to register the name, and neither of them could remember. Move over, dude. Jesus. Neither of them could remember what the name was. They remembered it was L something or other, but couldn't sort of come up with it. And they would come out with different words, different names, and no, wasn't that. And eventually one of them said Questro, and they said, I think it was something along that kind of. That'll do. We'll call it that, and that's what they called it, Questro. It's been sold off now a few times. The Delaware West people now have it, and they've got resorts all around the world. There's a couple of parts to Questro. There's the actual station itself, which has tents in the campsite there, or you can get campsites further out, isolated campsites. So although you're part of Questro and just down the road from the facilities, you're still kind of camping in the bush on your own sort of thing, some real nice little private places, which is pretty good. And then you've got the glamping at Emma Gorge. It's just a little bit outside of the actual station area. I don't know what you pay a night, probably a couple of $100 a night for these things. These are sort of tents, but they're on a bit of a stilt, so there's a few steps to get up. You've got a little veranda you sit on. You've got hard walls, but it's a tent top, and you've got a shower and toilet all built into them as well. They're pretty good, unless it's hot. Then they're not so good because there's no air conditioning. They're very limited power. There's no fridges in the place. If you want a cold drink, you've got to go up and buy a cold drink from the bar or something like that. But apart from that, it's a really, really nice place. But yeah, glamping, so it's expensive. Everything needs to be trucked in and out, so you've got to pay for that. I've been up here a few times, so I've got a couple of videos I have done in the past. I'll put a link to that down below, down here somewhere, and you can have a look at them. But we're going to go out. Our first stop is going to go to the hot springs there, which Zebedee Springs, that's right. We're going to go in there and have a look at that.
Sun to rise, rainy days and careless nights. Say you will, don't say goodbye, say it's alright. Throw your caution to the wind, the shelter of my single bed. You can call it Wonderland, we could stay the night. Fly away somewhere past the Milky Way. Maybe we'll.
You just turned onto the Gibb River Road. Gibb River Road's one of them iconic four-wheel drive roads that everybody wants to do. For the section we're doing, this is going to be bitumenised. It's bitumenised all the way through to El Questro, or just past El Questro. But it stops before you get down to the Pentecost River, and then it goes for about 500 kilometres or something out towards Derby, and then it becomes bitumen again before it gets into Derby. It is seriously four-wheel drive only. Some bits can be muddy, can be difficult. It's very corrugated most of the time. Serious four-wheel driving ability, and to be set up correctly. You can't go in there half set up. Now these boards here, these are pretty important to look at. This time of the year, not a problem because the road's going to be open. But if you're coming in through here just after the wet season, or just when the wet season's starting, you need to look at these boards to find out if the roads are open. If the roads are not open, you can't go through. That's not going to be a problem for us today. So we're going to be following these, I think it's Coburn Ranges through here. We saw a bit of this yesterday when we were coming into Kununurra. And we'll go past Emma Gorge first before we get into El Questro.
Waiting for the sun to rise, rainy days and careless nights. Say you will, don't say goodbye, say it's alright. Throw your caution to the wind, the shelter of my single bed. You can call it Wonderland, we could stay the night. Fly away somewhere past the Milky Way. Maybe we'll return someday. Don't wake me up, don't wake me up. Riding on an endless wave, freight trains and aeroplanes. Maybe we'll return someday. Don't wake me up till we are home. Till we are home, till we are
The road into El Questro is of course gravel, like most roads around here, and it ranges from crap to why did I come here? They do grade the road a fair bit, but this sort of road seems to degrade real quick back into corrugations. If you do come across the grader, just slow down, take it easy past him, and watch for the boulders in the road. Needless to say, you need a four-wheel drive to get in here, because there is at least one, and probably more, river crossings.
A lot of water on the road here today. I've never seen water in a lot of these places. But we're coming into Zebedee Springs. Now they reckon this water went into the ground somewhere up around about New Guinea, and it's taken a few hundred years for it to come out down here. And when it comes out of the ground, it comes out at about 35 degrees, and depending on where you sit in the river to what temperature the water is. This is really quite surprising. That's a good point we should bring up, is that Zebedee Springs is open to the public till lunchtime. After lunchtime they close the gates, and it's for the exclusive use of anybody staying up at the El Questro resort. Whether they come down or not is irrelevant, it's just closed, and if they decide that, hey, I want to go to Zebedee Springs, then they drive them down here and they have the place exclusively to themselves.
From the bush car park, it's a short walk to the springs. Usually when I come here, it's really busy because I've just brought 45 people with me. So hopefully it's pretty quiet in here today.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
Well, that's absolutely brilliant. I'm just going to ask a stranger I don't know what they think of it. What's your opinion of it?
It's wonderful. Go away.
Jeffy, thumbs up. You're coming out here, got to do this. But come early because it gets full pretty quick, quite often.
After leaving Zebedee, it's about a 20-minute or so drive to the main station area, and this is where you'll get the main water crossings. To be honest, here in the past I've had about 2 crossings, but on this trip there's about 6. Nothing too serious, but the last one across the Pentecost River is the biggest.
I'm a little surprised about the amount of water on the road. Normally there's not that much around at this time of the year. But we've just done a couple of little muddy bits of water going into Zebedee Springs, and we've just had one river crossing there. But that's not the big one. The big one's down here, Pentecost River. I've come down here in a road coach, and I've had 4-wheel drives in front of me turn around and go back because they didn't want to cross the river. And then I drive through in the road coach. Also, it makes me wonder about the people who go through there in their nice, new, shiny BMWs and that, and think that they're 4-wheel driving, they're off-roading, and they're pretty excited with themselves. And then a road coach drives through. Another river crossing here, but this is pretty dry, this one. Shoot. Oh, poor undies, one of the two. They were hanging out to dry. Here you go, this is the Pentecost River. It's not the depth of the water you got to worry about, it's the crocodiles swimming past. No, I don't think there's any crocodiles up this section. Wouldn't want to be, because just down a little bit further, where the homestead is, there's a swimming hole where the people go swimming. Yeah, no, this is the Pentecost. Yeah, I thought I might wash the dirt off the rock damers. And now we are in El Questro station. Well, we've been on the station for a long time, but in the actual homestead. I've got happy campers here.
After 200 meters, bear right, El Questro Road, then you have reached a waypoint.
The station has accommodation for tenting and caravans, and also bungalows. There is a small shop, but if you're going to stay here, you really need to be self-sufficient and bring everything with you that you're going to need. They have a number of different tours you can do, including sightseeing flights and aerial fishing. They take you up into the gorges where nobody else can go, and drop you off for a day's fishing, then bring you back when you're done.
So as you take the road down towards Chamberlain River, all the way down here there are little tracks off to the side, and they've got names on them, names after different birds, and they're the individual private little campsites you can get. Obviously you pay a little bit more for the privilege of having your own private site, but there are no facilities whatsoever out there. Looks like they've done a fire burn through here. These ones are all closed.
We're just wandering down to the Chamberlain River down here. This is where they do the Chamberlain River Gorge tour. It's actually a brilliant tour, and I did try to get on it, but unfortunately there were no seats left, so we missed out. But if you get the opportunity, I can highly recommend doing the tour. Absolutely brilliant it is. Now, some years ago, I can't remember how long, maybe 6-7 years ago perhaps, there was a huge flood from one of the cyclones that came through, and the water came through here. You see those cliffs up there, probably about that ledge where it first starts to taper off. That's about the height of the water that came through. It went through here. All these trees through here were all knocked down. Everything was flattened completely. Tree stumps and boab trees and things were all stuck up under the house, the what do you call it, the station homestead house up there, which is where all the rich and famous people all go in there. I know Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, they've been in there, and a number of other well-known people from all around the world, actors and singers and all that sort of thing, have all stayed in there. I just can't remember who they were. They've all been in there, and that's the reason why Zebedee Springs closes at 12 o'clock, because anybody staying up there, like I said, if they get the whim and decide, I'd like to go and have a sit at the Zebedee Springs, they have the exclusive use of it if they need it. We've just had a little bit of lunch here under a tree at Chamberlain River. It's a nice warm day today, but it's got a bit of a breeze going, so that's pretty good. I've been here when it's been 50 degrees sitting out here and there's been no breeze, and it's absolutely shocking. But we've pretty much finished now at El Questro, so we're going to head towards Wyndam. But I'm just going to do a stop at the top of the hill up here. I'm going to show you one more little thing. Well, maybe it's two little things. We'll see. Two things I'm going to show you here. One first is this tree. As long as I don't get bitten by a snake, I'll be quite happy. This tree here, it's called a kapok tree. In the early days, the fruit of this thing, when it finishes doing its thing, it turns into quite a soft sort of almost cotton woolly kind of thing. It's what they used to use to make pillows in the old days. Used to stuff the pillows with them, and this is what the tree actually looked like. So that's the nut of the tree, I guess you'd call it, with the flower, the yellow flowers. Quite a lot of them up through this area. And if you were to pull them apart, then you would see that it's got this sort of, like, as I said, this sort of cotton woolly kind of material in it. Now the other thing is, behind me you can see there's that house up there. It's the homestead, the El Questro homestead. People pay somewhere around about $2,000 a night to stay in that place, and they don't like you taking pictures of it, because in case there's somebody there that's looking for a bit of a quiet sort of stay, they don't want you taking photos and getting photos of them, because people have telephoto lenses and things like that. So if you come up here and you want to get some photos of it, pretend you're taking photos of the kopok tree, and that just happens to be in the background, doesn't it? Now, I don't know how well you can see it in the video, but if you look where the veranda is, the bottom veranda, that was just at the bottom, or at the top where the water was during that big flood. And that's veranda is where those trees were stuck underneath it. So you can see that that's a lot of water flowing through here at a great rate of knots. Before we leave the El Questro area, we did a quick detour to have a look at the iconic Pentecross River crossing. For me, crossing this river would indicate the start of the true Gibb River Road experience. Because from here, it's a hard slog on a very rough road to Derby. But it's the other destinations off this road that makes it worthwhile. So did I go across it? Well, not this time. Just wet the wheels.
Well, we're finally coming into Wyndham. We've just had 28 kilometres of 60 kilometres an hour, 40 kilometres an hour, stop and go controllers, because they're upgrading the road. Probably because I was reading that the new industries are coming into town, as far as export anyway. A little bit on the town. It was a bloke came in here way back in the early 1800s and had a bit of a look around. He probably came in during the middle of the dry season. He said he didn't like the place. He came up the river, called it the King River, and he said no good. It was muddy, lots of crocodiles. Yeah, he didn't really like the place. 60 years later, Alexander Forrest, who would become eventually our first premier, he came up here and had a look around, and he must have come up after the wet season, because he said it was all pretty good. Lots of greenery around and everything, so they wanted to establish a settlement here. It's actually the first town to be settled in the Kimberley. It was Wyndam, because that's where they brought the cattle in when they brought them round by ship. Really, there sort of wasn't much of a town until after the Second World War, when a beef industry, abattoirs started in town, and that operated through to about 1985, I think it was, when that closed down, and a lot of the work went away from the town. It's been a pretty quiet town after that. And there hasn't sort of been a lot going on, and they do a little bit of beef exporting from here. I think that's a bit of an off and on sort of thing. And then recently they were exporting zinc, I think it was. What side of the road do you need, dude? Yeah, I know. Blimey hell. Some people. Anyway, getting back to it. Zinc, I think it was, they're exporting out of here. They were mining it about 250 kilometres back towards Broome. And then they were bringing it up to the port here and exporting it out. But they are looking at new industries. Oil exporting, I also just recently discovered, was here as well. They drilling for oil somewhere back towards Broome, and for some reason they're trucking it up to here to export it out, which seemed a bit strange. You think they would have gone back to Broome for it. but
After 90 meters,
that's coming up, and that's probably why the road's being upgraded, because it looks like they're putting in maybe double lanes and things, overtaking lanes and things coming in, and it's probably got to do with the upgrade of the port. The only problem is here where the port is, it's about 90 kilometres from where the port is to the open ocean. So they're actually driving up or sailing up a creek, and you know, that creek is subject to flooding during the rainy season, so I guess they're limited in the size of what they can bring in as well. But we're going to head up here to Five Rivers Lookout, and it's a brilliant little spot on top of a pretty high hill to have a bit of a look around the area.
after 300 meters, turn right down the
There you go, the wind come up all of a sudden. But down here, this is the Ord River down here. Out that way. That one. That is where the river goes out to the ocean. It's about, like I said, about 90 kilometres out. And that's where the boats come up to get to the port down here. We'll go up here in a sec. So the lookout's called the Five Rivers Lookout, because up here we've got the Ord River, you've got the port down here, the Durack River down there, named after Patsy Durack. He brought the first cattle up into here and set up the Durack station out on the Ord River. You've got the Pentecost River down here at the back. That's the one that we crossed when we went into El Questro, and then we crossed it again. Well, we didn't cross it, we went down to where it meets the Gib River Road. We went down there and had a look as well. So that's the Pentecost. And then out over here is the Forest River. It's probably pretty hard to see. It's out in the murky haze sort of thing. So yeah, so that's the Five Rivers. The main part of Wyndam is behind this hill. It's not very big. Then the port, with leftover sheds from different times when things were being exported out of here. Looking at the wharf, you can see that they must have a pretty big tide to deal with. In fact, it can be somewhere around 11 metres. Wyndam is the most northern town in Western Australia. About 3,200 kilometres, I think, north of Perth, and it's the end of the Great Northern Highway. Alright, well, that's Wyndam, and now we've got about an hour or so driving back to Kununurra, so that's pretty much the end of today. I've got to say, probably the biggest highlight of today was soaking at Zebedee Springs. What do you reckon? Yep. Oh well, that's it. See you later. Catch you tomorrow. Whoops, we're going to get a wash. He's probably knocking off to go home. I've got time. See you later.
Well, that's it for another video. If you liked it, then hit the thumbs up. That really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on anything else. Join us next time when we finish our time in Kununurra with a look around the town site and an amazing river cruise on the Ord River. So till next time, happy travels.